Greetings, Stalkers, and welcome to the Grymm Mansion. My name is Abominathan, kind of doctor that keeps apples away, and I'm joined tonight and all nights by my despised co-host.
Weird Aldrich. Just weird today.
I hope they feel a little better after the discussion that we'll have tonight about a movie that is, I wouldn't say infamous, but also not exactly the one of the greatest.
Certainly a cult classic.
Yeah, I would say so. Going back to the 1980s, at least I think so. To revisit the RE-ANIMATOR. So, you...
Candles.
Oh, right. Fuck.
You don't want another fiasco.
Yeah, let's not do the same thing that happened a couple episodes ago. The candles are lit, the circles have been closed, and the words of power have been recited. Let us begin tonight's gathering.
And tonight's gathering is very special to me indeed, because this movie is based off one of my favorite authors, and a great prophet of our folk, I guess I could say.
Yeah.
Howard Phillips Lovecraft. This movie is based off one of his serialized stories, I want to say. I think it was first published in the 20s, around Halloween 21, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a sort of innovation, because it depicted zombies as sort of objects of scientific creation instead of something supernatural. And it kind of contrasts off Frankenstein, which the good doctor had a similar purpose, albeit a tad different, in which he had several body parts being reanimated into one. And what Dr. West is trying to do is reanimating a whole body after it's been deceased, essentially bringing back the person instead of a new persona.
Yeah, it's an interesting new, I mean, not new because it's over 100 years old, but it's an interesting direction that they took, that Lovecraft took of this premise. So why don't we jump into it?
Right. All right. So in undisclosed year in the very famous country of Switzerland, our resident student, Herbert West, is being accused of killing his teacher. Do you remember his name?
His teacher is Dr. Huber, I believe.
Gruber, Hans Gruber, exactly. I know his name is very similar to Die Hard's villain. I think it's actually the same name.
Maybe.
Yes, Hans Gruber, it's the same. His response, however, is that he did not kill him. In fact, he actually brought him back to life.
I gave him life.
I gave him life, exactly. However, there's been some sort of overdosing issue as the doctor...
his eyes exploded.
Yeah, promptly explodes. What a way to start.
Yeah,
I
and
also
then
want to point out that the tone of the movie, although horror, obviously, has a lot of comedy elements to it.
yeah, it's
Some of the
trying.
absurdity of it all is contrast with the horrific scenes
Mhm.
that we're seeing.
Yeah, we can explore that a little more on the analysis. But yeah, so we cut to Arkham. We see in a emergency room, they are dealing with a patient who has, let's say, went into cardiac arrest, and they're trying to reanimate her. And I forget the doctor's name, but
Then,
well, it's the because so there's the doctor, and then there's the nurse, Kane, and then there's a bunch of other people around them with the defibrillator, et cetera, et cetera. But she's flatlined. Like there's nothing they can do at this point. But Kane is still trying to do CPR on her, and the doctor says something like, "Your optimism is seriously unprofessional," something like that. Something like that. And he has to put a blanket over her, over the patient, and just take her away to the morgue.
well, but not shortly after, then Dr. Dan takes this recently this his body to the morgue. Our intrepid hero, Dr. West, is introduced to him as the new transfer student. It doesn't really matter. He's here to continue his research, and he and Dr. Dan are going to become the best of friends. He's also introduced to the head of, I guess, the coroner department or something, but Dr. Hill.
It's very
Who,
weird because it's like you have the morgue, and he's working on the morgue to just like, I don't know, just like doing some kind of lobotomy or something to deceased
oh
people.
yeah, with the laser, yeah.
And then there's
Making
this
experiments.
other door, like this double door that is locked, and that's where Kane has to go to put the bodies, the freshly deceased bodies.
The
It's kind of
refrigerator.
yeah. I don't know if this is how it is in most hospitals. I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting set piece.
I'm sure that they must have some sort of area where the bodies must be cooler, not to spoil. I mean, we have something like that.
Yeah, but it is a convenient place for somebody to make their headquarters. Just saying.
I guess. Anyway, West apparently resents Dr. Hill because his entire work is derived from the work of Gruber, his former professor, and this friction between the two of them is going to become very apparent later.
Oh, yeah.
Later,
The chemistry is
movie.
strong between these two.
Anyway,
Negative chemistry, I guess.
cutting a bit of meat, no pun intended. The short of it is that Dan has a room or is renting an apartment and he's looking for roommates. And West shows up later that night while Dan is with his girlfriend, the dean's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And
Megan.
right off, yeah, Megan, thank you. Right off the bat, West has this sort of leverage against Dan in case, for some reason, he might want to tattle on him at a later date.
The awkwardness between these three is really funny. I don't know if it's intentionally funny or unintentionally funny.
Oh, it's definitely intentionally funny. Like I said, there's a lot of contrast between the way that West is trying to move into this room this night, tonight, no more delays, and Megan is somehow scared of him because he's a man in black that showed up at night looking very creepily, showed up at their door looking for a room to stay.
Yeah,
and then it's like, no, this is completely normal. He works with me at the university.
I guess it's the attitude that West is he's such a focused man.
Mm-hmm.
He has
Straight to
one
the point.
objective. Exactly. He has one objective. He doesn't need introductions. He doesn't need anything. He's just like, hey, do you have a basement? Nice. I can use this.
Perfect.
You won't even be aware that I'm here.
How we empathize with him, right?
Yeah.
And so later, presumably the next day, and while they're being lectured by Dr. Hill, West adamantly defies him about his theories on brain death. While he's lecturing on certain subjects, he's breaking pencils as to distract. Yes, to distract the doctor, make him. He dismisses the entire class, and West stays to let him know that he's teaching garbage. That these kids come to college to learn. You're closing their minds.
Yeah, the entire I guess the biggest what's the word? Anyway, the biggest point that they disagree with is the fact that, you know, Hill is still teaching and still very adamant about the idea that after the brain stops receiving oxygen or stops receiving blood, it dies from 6 to 12 minutes, and there's no way to extend that. Like it's gone forever. Like you're dead. There's no way to bring it back. And yeah, this is the main point that
Point of contention? Is that what you want to say?
Yeah. Point of contention that West has with him is like, he's like, you're wrong. Like, I know that it's possible to bring it back.
Resuscitate someone or reanimate. We'll save that for later. Then we cut to a very, very awkward scene where Megan, the dean, her father, and Dr. Hill are all having dinner, the three of them.
Oof.
And when Dan comes to pick Megan up, Dr. Hill kind of declares himself to Megan in the most cringe way possible. It's so awkward. It's comedic.
I don't even know if I think it's more like, this is a man who just has absolutely no shame in his own thoughts, in his own obsessions. Let's say he's obsessed with not just
Megan.
Yeah. I was gonna make a joke, like, you know, flesh, like brains, and like he's not obsessed with just flesh. He's also obsessed with a specific. Anyway, he's a creep. He's a total creep, and yeah, it's weird.
Megan leaves with Dan to Dan's apartment, and let's just say that Megan is starting to find a few things strange, namely the fact that Daniel's cat hasn't been seen, and usually whenever Megan comes around, he usually knocks something down. Knocks something down while she's there.
And maybe also up.
Maybe, who knows? I'm not one to judge. Anyway, she investigates around the house, and she knows that Rufus is inside West's room. So she breaks in, walks into his minibar.
Yep.
Opens the door to West's minibar.
Best way to describe it.
And finds a dead cat inside. This all is starting to look very familiar.
Yeah, remember that time that we had to brutally murder the cat because of possession? Yeah.
That wasn't so long ago. Check this video if you want to see it.
Yes, click on the, I don't know, whatever, thralls. You do the thing.
Oh, man. Anyway, back to the point. West comes in to see all this commotion, like, well, what are you doing in my room? Dan's like, why is my cat's dead? Megan is like, what the fuck is going on? And very shortly, West says that he found the cat dead. He had nothing to do with it, and he planned on telling Dan, but a note just wouldn't do it. Later that night, when Dan is sleeping, he starts hearing these horrific, demonic, like the closed captions were saying demonic cat sounds or whatever the
Yeah, it was something like that.
So he grabs like a baseball bat,
yeah,
and walks down to the basement to find West struggling with a cat. It's just a cat on his back.
Yeah, they fight for a while, and it's just, well, again, the special effect, the effects, practical effects aren't the most convincing, and I don't think that's the point.
It's not the point. It is definitely not the point.
But it's just like Dan eventually, like, because like the cat kind of just like hides, and it's like it's this weird screeching, like kind of distorted, and then it jumps at Dan, and we just see like Dan grabbing it and just like throwing it into like onto the wall, and it's so obviously just like a puppet that he just threw in the wall, but whatever. He breaks the cat's spine, and the cat dies again.
West says that he brought the cat back to life. Dan doesn't believe him, says that he lowered his vital signs to make the cat appear dead. West asks, do you agree that the cat is dead right now? Obviously, they see that the cat is like broken in half. There's back legs are
Completely
twisted
like
up,
butchered. Yeah,
it's a mess. And so West picks up a little bit of his serum, injects it a bit into the cat, and the kitty comes back to life.
well, somewhat. It starts like it starts moving, starts kind of just again that weird. Distorted.
Yeah, I'm not saying that the cat fixes itself and starts and like rushes out of there. Okay, it starts meowing.
It must be painful. It must be absolutely painful. Jeez.
I'm glad you say that, because there's a line that I want to quote here, in which Dan asks West, like, why is it making that sound? And West answers, birth is always painful.
Damn. This episode is sponsored by me, Abominathan. Did you know I'm opening up a new business this year? That's right, it's called HelloFlesh. Tired of grueling skincare routines? Tumors growing out of your forehead? Warts? Don't worry. With HelloFlesh, you'll get any new body parts you want right at your doorstep. No questions asked. Just follow the instructions and let your new flesh glister in the moonlight. If you'd want a more personalized fit, just send us a blood sample and we'll find the right one for you. We promise we won't use it for anything else. Sign up for HelloFlesh now with promo code NewYearNewMe and get your first month for free. The Grymm Mansion is not responsible for any malpractice, narcissism, demonic possessions, evil eyes, or curses that may occur while using this product.
I'm not sure if this is him trying to cope with the fact that he cannot get the serum right or the dosage right.
Yeah, I think it's cope because
yeah, it might be a little bit of cope.
I've brought things back to life and they didn't scream in pain before. You know, I'm not saying all the time, but you know.
And so here is Dan's turning point, in which he joins West's quest to perfect this serum of bringing things back to life for reanimation.
Mm-hmm. So we enter the part of the movie where the heist happens.
Oh yeah, because Dan goes up to the dean and tells him of what happened, of what he saw, and the dean
doesn't believe him.
Yeah, he's looking for an excuse to have him expelled so he doesn't have to date his daughter. Dr. Hill has been whispering in his ear about how Dan is a bad influence and how West is a bad influence on Dan, even a worse influence than Dan is. So by the law of extrapolation, you can see how much of a bad influence West is on Megan. Anyway, They both get expelled, and both are having none of that.
Technically, Dan doesn't. Like, Dan, he basically gives an ultimatum to Dan. He says, if you don't cut ties with West and stop dating my daughter, you will get your student loans rescinded.
I'm pretty sure that he rescinded his student loans regardless. Only because I say only this because they go and pick him up from the morgue after that, saying that Dr. Dan shouldn't be in the premises anymore. You know.
Okay.
Anyway,
maybe yeah.
Dan smuggles West into the morgue, where they find some fresh burn, or no, I don't think it was a burn victim. It doesn't matter what it was.
They basically have a limited amount of time that they're trying to find a perfect body to reanimate, and they stumble upon this what I can only assume to have been a wrestler or something because of what happens later, which makes sense, you know, because a lot of athletes die of like spontaneous cardiac arrest. So yeah, they would be the best candidates for this probably. Anyway, West injects the serum, and they're trying to wait and see if it does anything, and it takes a while. It doesn't seem to be doing anything, and then suddenly the body starts moving.
Because I think he injects even more, right?
Yeah.
That's not enough, so I'm going to do even more, so the process is faster. And so when the guy wakes up, he's angry, he's screaming, he's flipping beds around, throwing bodies around. He breaks the door of the refrigerator where he's in.
Yeah, because meanwhile, the dean has appeared, and he knows
trying to get into the refrigerator.
Yeah, he knows that they're in the morgue. So as he's making his way towards the door, on the other side of the door, the reanimated bodybuilder just kicks the door, and he jumps like towards the door and sort of
just tackles it, tackles the door down.
Yeah, just presses him between the door and the ground, just like smashing him like a sandwich. And then it's like basically he kills him. Like basically just like punches the shit out of him, and then just like, and West has to grab a honestly it's kind of painful watch because it's really it's not the best way of doing this, and you probably broke it. He grabs a bone saw and sort of punctures like the body
through the back, through the spine, through the thorax, through the heart.
Works, but okay.
It was a bit brutal, kind of Mortal Kombat. Of West.
I felt a little offended because as somebody who knows how to use those things, like you broke that, and you could have used blunt force. You could have used so many things. Anyway.
Yeah, scrapping to make whatever they can out of the situation, West decides to inject the dean with the serum, and blaming
funny
him.
Just how instantly West goes from like defending himself to like, we got a fresh new body, let's just do it right now. It is crazy how focused how dedicated this man is.
I admire it, honestly. Mm-hmm. The ability to not sidetrack. Mm-hmm. And to just always be committed to your goals is admirable, really.
Yep.
And so after reanimating the dean, he pins the horrific scene on him and his crazy bout of lunacy, and has him admitted to the world famous Arkham Asylum, where Dr. Hill apparently is performing some lobotomy on him with that laser drill that you mentioned earlier very well.
Supposedly, so the dean's daughter, Megan, because Hill needs her permission to do experiments on him, and Megan just wants her dad back, because he's become essentially like, I don't even know how to describe. Well, it's basically a zombie, right? But yeah, it's basically like that stereotypical zombie, like moving weirdly, like not really speaking per se, and you could kind of confuse it with like just somebody who's like in really heavy drugs or having some kind of like psychedelic episode. And I guess
psychotic.
Psychotic. And I guess that is the excuse that they use to cover it up, and she believes it. And so Hill and Hill once again being super weirdo, like he basically tries to kind of
he coerces her.
Yeah, he tries to coerce. He basically and
he tells her, "I'm only going to find out what happened to your dad if I perform this surgery on him, this exploratory surgery on him." And so he gets her to agree, essentially.
Apparently, it's not just the dean that he wants to explore. Anyway.
Oh, you.
Anyway.
After performing this surgery on him, he goes back to West and confronts him with this information. I know that the dean is dead. How is this happening? If you don't tell me, I'll whatever the I don't.
He basically has control over the situation, because he's blackmailing West, because he knows everything that he did, so he can just like get him basically arrested, or like completely, like he completely mess up his life if he doesn't do it as he says. And so West just allows him to kind of look through his notes, and even just puts him looking through a microscope to witness the serum in action, while he, behind Hill's back, grabs a shovel and just just kills him with the shovel and decapitates him.
Yeah, and having the unique opportunity to try his serum in 2 different body parts, because he hasn't still tried to animate body parts in itself. He uses the serum both on the head and on Hill's body, animating them separately. And this kind of comes to bite him back in the ass because he puts Hill's head on the spike, and his body comes in from behind and attacks West, knocking him out.
But it did work. Hill is reanimated and now with a detached body.
Yeah. He wakes up to find his lab completely trashed. His notes are gone, all of his serum is gone, and Hill went back to his office to get some blood and to free the dean, saying that, your time has come. We'll later find out. Go on.
Yeah. It is just so unique, let's say, to watch Hill do all this while being reanimated from the dead and with a detached head. So kind of like he sometimes is just grabbing it with both his hands, or sometimes he puts the head down facing the way that he wants to look, and then he has to go with his body almost like bumping into things. It's it's interesting. Impressive, truly.
Yeah, right. Dan and Megan are, making up from their previous fight in their apartment when the dean shows up to essentially steal her and take her to Dr. Hill.
Mm-hmm.
So he can make her his bride, essentially. And after some, I'm quoting my notes here, some steamy necrophilia, West comes up to break this lovely scene.
So just picture this. So Hill, as I said, like that whole like that morgue is like a very just very appropriate headquarters for like some kind of villain to do their crazy experiments, and it is locked somehow, or I mean, kind of is. Thinking that he's safe and that he's protected from from just anyone who wants to come in. Oh, how wrong you could be, because West just fucking shows up. He and Dan. I mean, yeah, he of course he shows up first to distract Hill, while Dan is sneaking behind him to try and free Meg from the restraints. But it's just so funny how nonchalant West is about all this. It's just
yeah, he strolls in like he owns the place. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, Hill has now an army of lobotomized, reanimated zombies that's he sets loose on our little gang. And after some fight scenes, some chase scenes, Megan kind of reasons with the dean, calling him father, saying something to the effect, "It's me, remember me, yada yada."
And yeah, it's supposed to be. I think it's trying to be kind of like a little bit of emotional moment in which, like, because that's kind of the whole premise up to this point is that it's kind of what Hill's plan was. It's just like, if now I can reanimate bodies and I can lobotomize them using my my laser drill. And that allows me to control them. And basically, like, instead of being like these kind of weird, so the reanimated bodies that West created were like these kind of animalistic, sort of like purely instinctual and like just monsters. And Hill, basically lobotomizing them, turned them into loyal servants, thralls, basically. And against all odds, Megan is able to somehow bring back some of that humanity that is apparently still in the dean, and he finally recognizes his own daughter. Of course, it's not as I'm giving the movie a lot of favors here, because I don't think it did in the exact same tone that I just explained. But yeah, the dean turns around and attacks Hill and mashes his skull in, like steals his head, and just
gives enough time to West to overdose Hill too in the serum.
Yeah, the body, and then the body just like kind of open, like the rib cage like opens, and then a bunch of organs just like shoot out, and his intestine becomes like a tentacle that he uses to grapple West. It's just insane. West ends up dying from this, being strangled by the corpse of Hill. Meanwhile, some like concoction like broke on the floor, and like the whole place is.
Let's not say he dies though, okay? Because he doesn't. Spoiler alert.
Oh,
you didn't see his dead body. Just
true,
if you don't see his dead body, he's not dead.
Okay, but he disappears in the mist of this of the mess while Dan and Megan are fleeing for their lives.
Yeah, and while they are, there is one of these reanimated zombies that strangles Megan and sadly kills her. And in a scene that mirrors the first one that you described so well in the beginning, where Dan is desperately trying to save someone and doesn't have the means to, he now does. And the last scene we have is the screen fading to black and the bright chemical, the last thing we see being injected into Megan before we hear a horrifying scream.
Great way to end the movie, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Although I did see that coming from a mile away, but that's beyond the point.
It's a great little way to tie things up too.
Mm-hmm.
With the beginning, how he was so powerless to help people, and now he can.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, how do we analyze this? What direction do we take this from? I think just from a cinematic standpoint, the movie is trying. I feel like it's trying to be two things at once, because it's trying to be funny, but it's also trying to be like, I don't know, like how much the original story is leaning onto the more existential aspect of death and life and like the implications of bringing someone back, etc. Like, I don't know how much they
No, not a lot. Not a lot, because as I told you, this was like a serialized short story. Lovecraft himself was not happy with it, and I think a very known scholar, S.D. Joshi, has even said that this is universally acknowledged as his poorest work. But that does not retract from the fact that this is an amazing movie.
Well, yeah, I feel like a lot of times we were more laughing at the movie than with the movie, personally, at least.
Because I think we don't laugh with the movie because the movie does not laugh. The characters in the movie, they take themselves seriously, but I think it's the contrast between them that creates such comedic effects. And I think that Stuart Gordon did this on purpose, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like this was no accident.
I get it, yes. I think that, it's very interesting. That's something that honestly I miss, like in modern movies. I think modern movies have completely lost that. It's this idea that the movie is taking itself 100% seriously, and the characters are too, but the premise is what's funny about it.
Yeah.
The situation is funny, but the characters are perfectly serious and just in the situation. And that's funnier than when a movie is like nowadays, it's like something happens and it's like, whoa, that just happened. Crazy. And it's like, the movie is trying to make fun of itself, and that just, that's not funny. So it is refreshing to see a movie that doesn't do that, and that does the opposite of that, in fact. So that's cool. But I do think it is confusing sometimes. It's like, you're kind of confused as to what you should be feeling at some points.
I think it's an entertaining movie.
It is.
It's one of those that it might be bad, but bad enough that it goes back around and it turns into something good.
Yeah, I think
it deserves the status of cult classic.
Yeah, I think it's basically cult, more of a cult movie, but not in the sense of not in The Room kind of sense, as in it's. Because The Room is funny, but it's
very unintentionally.
It's bad. It's bad, And this one is this one's not bad necessarily. It's just it seems a little kind of poorly made at some points, and it's kind of weird, and it's just kind of confusing and goofy. But it is watchable. It's funny, and it's fun. It's fun to watch, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree that it is a very entertaining movie.
Like, you're not cringing at it most of the time.
Except for that one scene.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is, I still feel like that is a choice by design, you know, because we have the contrast of someone who is probably even older than her father, saying those kinds of things in front of her father.
Yeah, it's
who is his
supposed to
co-worker. It's just
it's to set a precedent for, I guess, just how evil he is in a way. It's an interesting choice. I mean, maybe perhaps overused. I mean, at the time, maybe not, but nowadays it is kind of overused to make the villain like a weirdo rapist. But it works for this definitely. But it is kind of that does make you cringe. It doesn't make it's like yikes.
But I can tell you that West did not die because this has sequels.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But that makes sense.
We can go watch them if you like this one enough.
That makes sense. Practical effects are interesting. I wouldn't say I don't know if good is the word I would describe. I would say they're cool.
Serviceable.
Yeah, they work for the movie, I guess. They fit the
they do its job. They fit the budget especially.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, there isn't much analysis that we can give it, honestly, because this was originally supposed to be a parody of Frankenstein.
We could like, you know, draw some parallels to also kind of what we do. I definitely think the serum is an interesting means to reanimate. I do use serum myself. I have my own version of that. Although I've it is like
not ready to disclose your secrets, I assume.
Yeah, I'm not ready to disclose my secrets, but I think West. Yeah, I was West at some point. Let's say it like that, and that's why I relate so much to him. And it's kind of nostalgic because I remember being so innocent to the point of like thinking that, oh yeah, it's just a serum, just inject it and it's done. It's more complicated than that. Yeah, like it is realistic in the way that, yeah, like when you're immortal, when you're just figuring out the that there is a whole world outside of what is normal and what is acceptable in scientifically. Yeah, it does create this I guess obsession, and you see that in West. He definitely did not use the right dose. Let me just say.
Well, if that is all, I'm going to give this one
7.
I don't want to rate this movie.
Syringes. You don't want to rate this movie?
I don't want to rate this movie. I feel like it's above rating.
Infinity out of 10. Not a number out of 10. There we go.
I feel like that's still a rating.
That's still a rating?
But you do you, huh? Of course. Like,
Without further ado, the candles are out, the circles have been erased, and we will let silence reign again. The Grymm Mansion is closing its gates. Have a horrible night, and we'll see you next time.